Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us. Now, as we continue with more interviews here on the Daily Roundup, the City of Windhoek has issued a public notice inviting homeowners in the Katutura and Khomasdal residential areas to voluntarily exchange their houses. Now, this initiative targets owners of houses built between 1959 and 1960 to include these properties in their heritage program. Now, joining us via Zoom to give us insight on this matter is Aaron Nambadi, Curator at the City of Windhoek. A very good evening to you, Aaron. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Aaron, this is a very interesting initiative, I must really say. But what necessitated this initiative, and what criteria must the homeowners in Katutura and Khomasdal meet to be eligible for the houses exchange program?
Yeah, thank you for the question. To start off, the idea of the exchange of the houses was initiated by Council's resolution to preserve and promote its own heritage. I mean, the city's heritage. Mm-hmm. And one of our prominent heritage is the issue of forced removal in the 50s that then moved people into Katutura.
Right.
So Council felt the need to do more research and also preserve some of these historical houses in order to preserve our own history. I think in a nutshell that's one. And then the other part also is to see how tourism can be celebrated both by the local communities, that is by most communities that are living in the areas of Katutura.
Interesting. Now let's talk about what actually makes a historical house. What do you look at? Is it the structure? What criteria actually do you have, when you look at the houses in these areas that you have mentioned, like Katutura and Khomasdal, to make it, qualify as a historical house?
Yeah, the initiative is the house must be built between 1959 to 1960, between those years.
Right.
And it must be in its original state, almost in its original state, with fewer or lesser amendments to it. Because the idea is, like I have indicated, we're wanting to celebrate the heritage of our city. So we want to have those old houses almost in their original state, and then we will preserve this and also utilize this to do more research and also to celebrate the heritage of the city.
So how many houses built between 1959 and 1960 are targeted for integration into the heritage program?
7 houses, sir.
7?
7, yes.
All right. And after the renovation or makeover of these houses, will they be returned to the owners to occupy?
No, unfortunately not. We are now trying to get the former, they will be then by that time, former occupants to get new houses under the affordable, mass housing affordable, City of Windhoek affordable housing initiative. So what that means is that then when you give up and you qualify to give up your house, you will then have to be relocated to a new house.
I see.
If you meet all the criteria, that is.
Interesting. So being relocated to the new house is a benefit already that I think, these homeowners will receive. But what other specific benefits do homeowners actually receive when they, exchange their houses under this initiative? Yeah?
One of the most prominent one is the issue that you will be part of the whole initiative of celebration of our heritage. If you are a former owner, we will then have to document who the house belongs to, how we got the house and all that. And when we are doing our educational outreach, for example, or bringing visitors or tourists to your house, then you will be celebrated as part of the celebration of the heritage of the city.
What interesting is, Aaron, is that certain people also have certain attachments to their homes, and it wouldn't be really that easy to hand over their home, to be necessarily brought into a new home. But how do you convince homeowners, to actually, to hand over their homes for this exchange program, just for them to understand what really the the heritage program is all about and what the benefits are out of all this whole program here.
Yeah, no, we understand the implications. We also have, come again, sorry, I might have missed you.
No, you can continue, yeah.
No, I'm saying we understand as a city, we understand the implications, and we also understand we want to do a lot of research in order to understand, we understand the value that are attached to some of these homesteads and to the houses. We are not going to take anybody's property.
Right.
We are going to engage as partners, and we are going to also do a lot of assessment on both the properties and also to understand the value to it, because we understand the implication of moving from your house that you have lived in, the value that you have attached to it. And we are not imposing on anyone. That's why it's a voluntarily exercise. And when that is done, it will take us a couple of months to engage and to come to a conclusion that is both beneficial to the residents and also to the city in the celebration of our heritage.
Interesting. So what measures has the city put in place to ensure that the preservation and maintenance of the historical houses are integrated into the heritage program?
What do you mean?
In terms of the measures the City of Windhoek has put in place to ensure that the preservation and maintenance of the historical houses is well integrated into the heritage program.
Yeah, no, we are going to do quite a lot. First of all, if we do get these houses, we'll have to protect and preserve these houses, and by that we'll have to put a lot of measures in place, security measures, for example, and also the research that we are continuously doing will then lead to products, for example, where we are going to develop issues, things like roots, cultural roots, that will then help us pump tourists and then local visitors to these houses. So when after we have completed this exercise, what you would see then, the celebration of the history of the city would then also start to flow into the local communities, and the local communities will benefit directly because our visitors will then pass through these houses, buy artifacts from these houses, for example, or have lunch at these houses, and then from there they can also visit other entities like Kapana, for example, things like that. And then in the long run, what you would see then, the celebration of the heritage of the city will then be aligned into our bigger picture of the tourism mainstream in the city.
All right. Let's talk about the affordable housing project and how, this whole initiative addresses the needs and preferences of participating homeowners. How does the affordable housing project address the needs and preferences of the participating homeowners?
So I lost you. Your phone is cutting. What is the question?
My question is, how does the affordable housing project address the needs and preferences of participating homeowners when they eventually get to, be moved into a new home?
Sure. That line was really bad. I just had address homes.
All right. Let me just thank you right here.
Yeah, now
Mr.
I can
Aaron.
hear you better. You broke off a line.
All right, Aaron. Let me rather just ask you the last question. How the affordable housing project address the needs and preferences of the participating homeowners?
The preferences and the needs that will be discussed with the successful owners. For example, let me give an example. If you are living in a 2-bedroom house and you will then be one of the beneficiaries of these new houses, all those needs will have to be.
Yeah.
We need to sit around the table and discuss it, and then you would have then to agree if some of the needs are met before you move into the houses.
Lastly, Aaron, before
we are not, like I indicated, the city is not imposing on anyone.
Yeah.
It's an engagement that is beneficial to both of us.
Very well. Lastly, Aaron, before we let you go, let's talk about the long-term plan that the city, have for the heritage program once these historical houses are integrated. What's the bigger picture in the long run?
The bigger picture is like any other African country or any other country that has its historical narrative one-sided and narrated from one-sided. The idea is to create a balance so that we can celebrate in unison as a city. That's one part, and the other part also is to see that the local community that we serve as a council benefit from the mainstream. I think those are two important reasons, and we are asking our residents to help us and also help themselves, because in the long run, if a child, for example, asks, Daddy, where did Grandpa live in the past when he was working on contract? We would then be able to have an institution that we have preserved, and we can also use to educate and also teach them about the histories related to the history of the city, and also specifically to issues of forced removal, and then also development of what we know today as Katutura. I think in the long run, that is what we are trying to achieve.
And when are we looking at this program exactly making its kickstart, and when can individuals start expecting the City of Windhoek in their areas to start engaging them?
For now, the only thing I can state is that for now we are at the initial stages, so there are quite a number of issues to look at. For example, we are going to see the forms that will come in, the applicants, which then will be assessed by various specialists from various institutions that serve on our advisory committee board. And then we will now start doing our research by assessing the houses. So it's quite a slightly lengthy process, but we hope to conclude this in the near future. But we will need to do quite a number of research in terms of also understanding issues relating to issues of ownership, who owns the property. Are they debts on the property? And all these other things in consultation with the Ministry of Land and also a bit of research also from our side. And then from there, then we will now have to engage on the issues of the development of the houses. Then we will do the actual exchange.
Very well. Aaron, thank you so much for making the time to talk to us, and all the best with this program.
My pleasure.
Aaron Nambadi, the curator at the City of Windhoek, was talking to us about an initiative that is soon to be established, which of course involved an invitation by the City of Windhoek in Katutura and Khomasdal residential areas, especially to voluntarily exchange their houses. Now, so of course, the houses built between 1959 and 1960 to include these properties under their heritage program. You're still watching